when you're having a baby, there's a lot on your mind. At Northwell's Staten Island University Hospital, you can rest easy with our reimagined labor and delivery experience. Our new Grapuso Women and Newborn Center provides private suites, overnight accommodations for a loved one, and a top-level NICU, all powered by the team that cares for the most moms and babies in New York. It's care made for Staten Island and made for you. Visit northwell.edu/newbaby. Staten Island University Hospital. Raise health.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
The Stone Zone. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
You are now entering the Stone Zone. Well, now that the contents from the annex of Special Counsel John Durham's investigation into the origins of Russiagate are fully known, it paints a much clearer picture of how the conspiracy to frame Donald Trump as a Russian asset took place in exact terms. Durham, you recall, was appointed by Attorney General Bill Barr to, quote unquote, get to the bottom of the origins of the Russian collusion hoax. But Durham took 5 long years to conduct his investigation, long enough to make sure that the statute of limitations had run out and that nobody would be charged with a crime. In the end, he charged a lawyer named Sussman at the very, very bottom of the totem pole in the Russian collusion hoax, kind of like charging the guy who drove the getaway car for double parking while you let the bank robbers get away. And even Sussman was acquitted in front of a Democrat judge with an all-Democrat jury in Washington, D.C. He also charged an FBI lawyer named Kleinsmith for altering an FBI 302. That's the document where FBI agents take notes regarding the questioning of an individual. Kleinsmith got a slap on the wrist. He was disbarred for 15 minutes, only to be readmitted to the bar. Well, we now know that the Democrat National Committee chairperson, Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who I think reminds virtually every man who's been married twice of his first wife, worked with Leonardo Bernardo of George Soros' Open Society Foundation to create the phony Steele dossier. That is the fabricated report paid for by Hillary Clinton and eventually laundered through the FBI, the Clinton campaign, and Fusion GPS, and then given to the fake news media, specifically Mike Isikoff, an FBI shill who poses as a reporter for Yahoo.com, to create a scandal that was designed for the sole purpose of undermining President Donald Trump and the will of the American people. These came from the files that were found in a burn bag by FBI Director Kash Patel in a hidden room at FBI headquarters. It was sealed off during the days of co-conspirator James Comey's being the head of the FBI. Now, in the case of Wasserman Schultz, she already has a checkered history. The WikiLeaks disclosures prove that she had worked with Hillary Clinton to change the rules to screw Bernie Sanders out of the Democrat nomination. By the way, we're still waiting for the vote count from the California Democrat primary in 2016 because those results were never required to be released by the Democrat National Committee. That's because it's quite likely that Bernie Sanders won. And then there was Debbie Wasserman Schultz's involvement with the Awan brothers. Those were 2 IT consultants that she hired to work for her and recommended to other House members. When the Capitol Hill police informed Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz that the Awan brothers were under investigation for the potential theft of both data and money from House members, rather than cut them off, Wasserman Schultz changed their status from consultants to being members of her staff so they would have continued access to the U.S. House of Representatives website back end. That makes her a co-conspirator in the theft of money and data for which the Iwan brothers were later charged. So when she denies these new claims, I believe she should take a lie detector test to determine whether she is telling the truth. I rather doubt it. Every day we learn more. The Democrats are in full denial. They, of course, point to the Senate House Intelligence Committee report, claiming it was bipartisan, which is technically true. There were 3 never-Trumpers, Trump-hating Republicans on that committee. I'm very familiar with this report. It is basically a cut and paste of every unproven allegation regarding Donald Trump and his supporters. I think there's 5 references to me in the report. Every one of them is categorically, materially false. Joining us later in the show, Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, is going to join us to talk about what she has disclosed so far and hopefully give us some insights into what she is going to disclose. So stay with us for that landmark interview coming up here on the Stone Zone. In the meantime, who you're talking to online may not be a real person, but may, in fact, be an AI bot sent by a malignant actor to manipulate you. A new study published in Fortune magazine shows that internet bots now account for half of the traffic on the internet, with their behavior being specifically dominant on social media. The problem is particularly bad on X, formerly known as Twitter, where the bot activity accounts for a stunning 76% of its traffic. I noticed this because people attacking me over being a Russian agent, which of course I was never charged with, and there is no evidence of, all post identically worded posts on X. Now, I think Elon Musk has been worked very hard to try to eliminate the bots, but it is clearly inexact, and many bots still exist. The problem is, as I say, X allows free speech, unlike any platform, and network running bots have taken advantage of this added freedom to flood that network. This is something you must understand if you are to avoid being scammed, harassed, or manipulated while using these platforms. So in the age of deep fake technology and AI manipulated videos, it's becoming increasingly difficult to determine what is real from what is fake. Internet companies are also reportedly using AI to boost up their traffic numbers and user numbers in an attempt to artificially inflate the actual impact of their websites and their networks. This could be the underpinnings of an AI bubble similar to the tech bubble that devastated the economy in the early 90s and late 2000s. It's in this digital age where computers and technology rule the day. It's imperative to be as careful as possible, actually, when interacting, investing, or otherwise interfacing in the economy or society in general. Your future may actually depend on it. There are many, many Roger Stones on Facebook. The problem is, none of them are me. I was in a restaurant recently, and a guy came up to me and said, "Hey, Stone, where's that crypto I bought from you?" Folks, I'm not on Facebook. In fact, I'm still banned for life. I've had other people complain about some of my posts on Instagram. There's only one minor problem. I'm not on Instagram, but there are many Roger Stones who are. It's just that none of them are me. In fact, even on X, where I think there's a great deal more freedom of speech, and for which I'm most grateful to Elon Musk for getting my voice back, there are many, many Roger Stones there who aren't me. I complain about them. They ultimately get taken down only to pop up later with a slightly different spelling of my name. It's an ongoing problem. I guess it's part of the price I pay for being famous, but I'm only famous because Robert Mueller targeted me in the largest single dirty trick in American political history, the Russian collusion hoax. Many times more serious than Watergate. Watergate involved a small but misguided group of private citizens who attempted to break into the Watergate Hotel complex of the Democrat National Committee. Now, why they did so remains an enormous mystery, because Richard Nixon was leading his opponent by landslide margins in every state poll, and ultimately would win the largest landslide in American political history, carrying 49 states. So what the Watergate burglars were really looking for remains a mystery to this day. I've written 2 books on President Richard Nixon, Tricky Dick, The Rise and Fall and Rise of Richard M. Nixon, and Nixon's Secrets, the inside story of Watergate and the impeachment. And I cover these topics pretty extensively. But Richard Nixon was not using governmental agencies and governmental authority against his political opponents. In fact, there is no evidence whatsoever that Nixon knew about or approved the Watergate break-in in advance. In fact, the man who planned, pushed, funded, and then covered up the Watergate break-in is none other than John Wesley Dean, who would later reposition himself as a whistleblower. All one has to do is look at the discrepancies between his sworn testimony to the Senate Watergate Committee and his testimony to the Watergate special prosecutors. It becomes abundantly clear that he was the Watergate rat. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is, I think, on the verge of demonstrating that there was massive fraud and irregularities in the 2020 election. The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has ordered the intelligence community to investigate election interference and tampering, and her office has found that the federal government looked the other way when the 2020 election fraud was taking place. Gabbard was quoted as saying, "We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast." Which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections. Tulsi Gabbard joins us shortly here in the Stone Zone. This is one of the many questions I hope we have time to ask her. But Gabbard revealed that a whistleblower from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency has provided evidence to the Office of the Director of National Intelligence that the government ignored large-scale vulnerabilities in electronic voting machines in the lead-up to the 2020 presidential election. Between the electronic voting machines and the massive fraud involved in mail-in ballots being processed without any safeguards, that opened up the potential for massive fraud, which I believe occurred in 2020. The fact that this was ignored and covered up has a travesty, but those in the mainstream media continued, and to this day, insist that there's no evidence whatsoever of anomalies, irregularities, or outright fraud in the 2020 election. I have a feeling that Tulsi Gabbard is about to prove them wrong. The Democrat Party is slipping even as we speak. A new 2025 National Public Reference Survey has found that 52% of men aged between 18 and 29 say they are Republicans or lean Republican, while only 34% of men aged between 18 and 29 say they are Democrats or lean Democrat. To contrast that, in 2023, American Trends Panel found that 62% of men between 18 and 29 then said they were Democrats or lean Democrats, while only 36% of men between the ages of 28 and 29 say they were Republicans or lean Republicans. This is a massive swing that's come as a result of the woke policies of the modern Democrat Party. The Democrats can no longer hide their anti-male bias. President Trump's 2024 presidential campaign saw him reach out to independent-minded podcasters and get on to TikTok. This allowed him to be seen by more younger voters that were impressed with Trump's authenticity, his candor, and his sense of humor. Under President Donald Trump, the Republican Party is no longer the party of Wall Street, no longer the party of the country club, no longer the party of the elites. It is now the party of the working people. And he has made huge inroads among younger voters, among African-American voters, among Hispanic voters, and among Asian voters, all of whom heretofore were thought to be solid Democrat Party constituencies. If you're just tuning in, this is Roger Stone. You're tuned into the Stone Zone. Whatever you do, don't touch that dial, because we'll be right back.
The Stone Zone
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
When you're having having a baby, there's a lot on your mind. At Northwell's Staten Island University Hospital, you can rest easy with our reimagined labor and delivery experience. Our new Grapuso Women and Newborn Center provides private suites, overnight accommodations for a loved one, and a top-level NICU, all powered by the team that cares for the most moms and babies in New York. It's care made for Staten Island and made for you. Visit northwell.edu/newbaby. Staten Island University Hospital. Raise health.
Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant.
Whoa, that's refreshing.
And a 9.5 plus pH for every way you move.
I did take a Spain class today.
Restoring like a pro. Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant. For those with a taste for taste. Grab yours today.
The Stone Zone
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Stone Zone. President Donald Trump has now fired a Biden-era official for manipulating the national job numbers. President Trump announced in a Truth Social post that he's fired Commissioner of Labor Statistics, Dr. Erica McIntyre, blaming her for manipulating job reports in the lead up to the 2024 election to help Kamala Harris's chances of achieving victory. Trump said this is the same Bureau of Labor Statistics that overstated the job growth in March 2024 by approximately 818,000, and then again right before the 2024 presidential election in August or September by 112,000. Now, if you're a longtime listener to the Stone Zone, you've heard us with Barry Habib, one of the country's leading experts on both mortgages and the housing market, as well as a shrewd economic analyst. And he called this a long time ago, saying that the job numbers were not only inflated, but predicting correctly that after they got massive headlines, they would later quietly be restated and ratcheted down in the weeks afterwards. He turned out to be exactly right. President Trump has also accused the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, of playing these games as well, manipulating interest rates in order to suppress the Trump MAGA economic boom. It is absolutely true that the two indicators for the Federal Reserve in considering interest rate cuts, unemployment and inflation, are either lower than or at the same level as the last 4 times the Federal Reserve cut interest rates on the American people. Yet, even with all of these subversive agents within the government, President Trump is still posting historically strong economic numbers and has turned out to be right because his tariff and closed border immigration policies have bolstered the American economy. The quicker the subversives are dispatched from this administration, the more wealth and prosperity will return to the American people. I'm glad to see this dismissal. It was a great sign, and frankly, Powell should be next. I don't believe the president has the legal authority to fire the Federal Reserve Board chairman, but frankly, it is time for Mr. Powell to resign. The next step, in my opinion, of course, would be to repeal the Federal Reserve Act entirely. Perhaps, as Congressman Ron Paul long argued, we first need a public audit of the Fed. And while we're at it, I remember very distinctly that Elon Musk was going to go inspect our gold at Fort Knox, as well as gold that is held for the American people at the New York Federal Reserve Board headquarters. Then I never heard any more about that. So my question is very simple. Nobody has seen the gold, America's gold reserve, since 1974. I think it is time to find the gold. Anyway, you're tuning in here to the Stone Zone. Coming up next, Tulsi Gabbard, the former 4-term Democrat congresswoman from Hawaii, turned Republican, and now distinguishing herself as the director of national intelligence. And she's been very much in the news. I have a lot of questions for her. And let's face it, I'm a fanboy, so I'm going to gush a little bit. I think she's an amazing public servant with a great, great future. Hang on with us, and when we come back, Tulsi Gabbard joins the Stone Zone.
The Stone Zone
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs, but luckily there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Hey, I'm Frank, and I have hidradenitis suppurativa, HS. Before starting Cosentix, I was so uncomfortable with my symptoms, like not being able to sleep on white sheets or wear white clothes. Now I can appreciate the little things.
Cosentix secukinumab is prescribed for adults with moderate to severe hidradenitis suppurativa, HS. Don't use if allergic to Cosentix. Get checked for TB before starting. Increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like TB or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if IBD symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTIX or Cosentix.com.
You're stronger than HS. Ask your dermatologist about Cosentix.
The Stone Zone
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back into the Stone Zone. Joining us now is the director of the Office of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Now, if you are a listener to the Stone Zone, you know that I have been a fan of Tulsi Gabbard since I saw her demolish Senator Kamala Harris, then Senator Kamala Harris, over the latter's record on criminal justice, because as a prosecutor, Kamala Harris put thousands of people in prison for the nonviolent first-time crime of possession of small amounts of drugs, which I think is wrong. And the toughness that Tulsi Gabbard displayed in that presidential debate caught my attention. And it is no secret that I am among those who urged her to support President Trump, that I later among those who urged her to become a Republican, and that I have predicted, this is not a secret, that I believe that she will someday be our first woman president. Not necessarily in 2028, but very definitely someday. So now that I'm finished gushing like a fanboy, Tulsi Gabbard, welcome to the Stone Zone.
Aloha, Roger. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
I'm very happy to have you. You have an amazing career. People may not know that you are the youngest person ever elected to the Hawaii State Legislature, that you today hold the rank of Lieutenant Colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve, that you served in a combat zone in Iraq with the Army National Guard. You, of course, were a four-term Democrat congresswoman from Hawaii's 2nd District, but now I think you are providing your greatest public service yet. You have single-handedly exposed that the Russian collusion hoax was exactly that, nothing less than a seditious conspiracy to overturn the election and remove a duly elected president. And you have come with the receipts proving that President Barack Obama, Vice President Joe Biden, FBI Director James Comey, National Security Advisor James Clapper, Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, National Security Advisor Susan Rice, and many others, including Robert Mueller, engaged in a fabricated hoax to frame Donald Trump as an asset of the Russians. I guess my question is, since you have had the courage to make all of this information public, and this is not supposition, this is not investigative journalism, these are not theories, you have brought hard receipts to prove everything you have said. Have there been any credible threats against you for going after these high-level individuals, such as President Obama?
Roger, that's a good question. I do have a security detail that is assigned to me given the role and responsibilities that I carry as Director of National Intelligence. I also know that they don't tell me about every single threat that comes in. What I am told is there is an almost constant stream. So they fill a very challenging, but obviously an important role that I'm grateful for.
Now, I saw this morning that a whistleblower from the intelligence community came forward to you to expose that they fought for 6 years to uncover the Russiagate hoax. They went to every person they could, exhausted every avenue within the system, and they were consistently stonewalled. In fact, they were told if they wanted a promotion, they would keep their mouth shut and go along with the false narrative. Why do you believe that nobody in positions of power would listen to this voice of reason? And does it show systematic problems within every level of the federal bureaucracy?
Roger, the two drivers and motivations that I can think of when I ask these questions of myself, why is it that through so many years of this courageous whistleblower coming forward, did nobody heed his call? Did nobody say, thank you for bringing forward the truth? We will now take action to expose the truth and bring accountability. And two motivations come to mind, and one is connected to your first question about threats. There is a level of fear that exists when you have people like Chuck Schumer. You will remember in, I believe, either December of 2016 or January 2017, issued a warning on Rachel Maddow's show. And I'm just pulling this up here, where he said that President Trump was being really dumb by taking on the intelligence community. Let me tell you, you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. This was said in January of 2017. If you read the New York Times op-ed written by John Brennan and James Clapper that was published 2 days ago, one of the first lines that they have in the first paragraph is, we want to set the record straight and in doing so sound a warning. There's a lot of fear. We have other whistleblowers who are coming forward. One was debriefed just the other day, and this intelligence community professional with decades of service under his belt was visibly shaking and emotional, filled with fear and anxiety and nervousness about coming forward and telling the truth about these very same powerful people that we exposed in our documents and their complicity in this conspiracy to delegitimize President Trump in his election in 2016, therefore subvert the will of the American people, and enact what can only be described as a years-long coup against the duly elected president of the United States.
Well, I, of course, have lived this myself. After I was pardoned, Robert Mueller, or more precisely Andrew Weissman, ghostwriting for Robert Mueller, said in an op-ed in the Washington Post that I had been in regular contact with multiple Russian intelligence assets, when in fact there was no evidence in my trial that I was in touch with any Russian assets. To violate the False Statements Act, your statement must be willful. It also must be material. So while it's true that I made misstatements in my voluntary testimony for the House Intelligence Committee, none of them hid any underlying crime. Very specifically, none of them hid the crime of Russian collusion or any collaboration with WikiLeaks. Not until BuzzFeed sued the U.S. Justice Department were they forced to disgorge Robert Mueller's final report, withheld from my defense attorneys at trial. And on page 178, even Mueller could not sugarcoat the fact that he'd found no evidence of Russian collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, or any other crime on my part. As I think it was Ray Donovan, who was the Secretary of Labor, falsely accused of a corruption during the Reagan administration, who said, where do I go to get my good name back? These people take no prisoners. That is most definitely true. I am curious about reports that a whistleblower from the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency has come forward with information regarding the 2020 election and the disposition of electronic voting machines. Can you yet tell us the specifics of this whistleblower's revelations and what we might expect to hear regarding election fraud, anomalies, and irregularities in the days and months to come?
Sure. Well, this whistleblower came forward, and this is something that I shared with the president during one of our first cabinet meetings. I think it was back in March of this year, about this whistleblower that had come forward very soon after I assumed the position of director, pointing out that in his previous employment at CISA, he was quite shocked at how in the lead up, I think this was in 2019, in the lead up to the 2020 election, he saw documentation that pointed out that there were some vulnerabilities to be concerned about within our election systems, and that the final paper that the leadership at CISA decided to publish intentionally left out that vulnerability from their report. And I think I'm right in saying that the statements around the government in 2020 were resoundingly, this was the most secure election of our lifetimes. Am I correct in that?
I believe that is correct.
So this whistleblower came forward basically saying that what he saw was essentially the very intentional decision by those in leadership to leave out what he viewed as a critical piece of information in the months leading up to that 2020 election. I don't have evidence beyond that speaking to motive or anything else, but the fact that this whistleblower came forward, having worked at CISA, pointing this out was obviously very concerning.
One of the things that is interesting, of course, has been great focus. The director of the Central Intelligence Agency, John Radcliffe, released a report several weeks ago that indicated that former CIA Director John Brennan, who I believe is still talking to some in the CIA because many of his people are burrowed deep into that bureaucracy, forced the so-called Steele dossier, which I think he certainly knew. Andrew Weissman, the de facto head of the Mueller investigation, knew back from his days as the FBI general counsel, was a fraud, was a fabrication paid for by Hillary Clinton, didn't meet agency standards. But now we have much deeper evidence of Brennan's duplicity. Yet he goes on MSNBC and he says, well, the Steele dossier may yet be right. There's no evidence of that. He really is, this guy is unbelievable. He was outraged. Pardon me, I got that wrong. He was appalled several weeks ago when you fired 100, I think it was 100 officials inside the Office of the Director of National Intelligence because they were disloyal to this administration because they leaked like a sieve.
Yeah, it is interesting to see the feigned outrage coming from John Brennan and James Clapper and Susan Rice and others in response to the release of intelligence assessments and documents and emails and personal accounts of the events that occurred then at the end of 2016 and early 2017 that resulted in this manufactured intelligence assessment saying the opposite of what previous intelligence assessments had said. The previous assessments basically said Russia did not have the intent nor the capability to help President Trump win this election. The manufactured intelligence assessment that you're talking about, that John Brennan and James Clapper not only allowed the Steele dossier to be included as a source for this, it was actually they demanded that the Steele dossier be used, and then they buried it by highly compartmentalizing it in a highly classified intelligence category so that it would be very, very, very hard for anyone to know that they chose to use the Steele dossier, which was already well known to be discredited across the intelligence community as a source in this document. So the more outraged I see them as they make the circuits around cable news, the more I know that we are over the target, as we say in the military. If this was as nothing to see here as CNN wants us to believe, then these guys would be out somewhere enjoying their summer rather than expressing their feigned outrage and, frankly, lying again to the American people about their actions and their complicity in this massive conspiracy that occurred.
The discussion of the Steele dossier has been extraordinary over the last couple of weeks, but John Durham never addressed the question of the claim that the Democrat National Committee was hacked by Russian intelligence. Now, it was during my trial, the FBI admitted that they had never inspected the computer servers at the DNC, relying on a company called CrowdStrike, a private left-leaning IT company. The judge refused to let us have their report in my defense. But the head of CrowdStrike, Sean Henry, who just happened to be a former deputy to FBI Director Robert Mueller, testified before the House Intelligence Committee that he had no proof that the Democrat National Committee had been the target of an online hack. And the judge would not allow Bill Binney, formerly a very high-level CIA counterintelligence IT guy, to testify and provide forensic evidence that would have proved that there was no online hack of the DNC. Have you seen any evidence that would bolster that conclusion?
I have yet to see any evidence that proves either of these narratives come across my desk. Either the narrative that the Democrats have pushed for a very long time, that Russia hacked into the DNC's email servers and email systems. If you recall, this claim was one of the reasons why President Obama in December of 2016 announced harsher sanctions against Russia in response to this alleged hack. But nor have I seen the opposite, evidence of some other entity, nation state, or others who may have hacked into the DNC system. This is a question that still remains, and we'll see what turns up.
And it is an area that I think should be examined. In my trial specifically, federal prosecutor Jonathan Kravitz, when the FBI was forced to admit that they never inspected the server, he filed a very rare surreply with the court saying that they had additional proof that the DNC had been hacked, but of course they produced none whatsoever. It's because it doesn't exist, in my opinion. Durham, as I say, never addressed this. I hope you have the opportunity to address it as you continue to look at classified documents. When we come back, I want to ask you about this proposal by Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, who would transfer the authority to declassify documents from the office you had as the Director of National Intelligence to the FBI, the CIA, and the NSA, all institutions who created the Russian collusion hack and then lied to the American people about it. We'll be right back with Tulsi Gabbard right here in the Stone Zone. Whatever you do, stay with us in the zone.
The Stone Zone
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
When you're separating from the military, no one tells you how hard it can be to get your civilian life up to speed. But with VA benefits, it doesn't have to be. From the VA home loan requiring no down payment, to the GI Bill covering tuition, books, and cost of living, to VA healthcare offering top-ranked, low-cost care designed specifically for veterans. All the support you need is at VA. I'm here telling every veteran because I wish someone had told me. Get what you earned. Visit choose.va.gov.
Not all veterans are eligible for the type or amount of benefits mentioned here.
The Stone Zone
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
We're back in the Stone Zone with the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and we're very grateful to her for joining us today. Senator Tom Cotton seems to be leading the charge to reduce President Trump's oversight over the intelligence community through his legislation, the Intelligence Community Efficiency and Effectiveness Act of 2025. Now, while this legislation kind of masquerades as a cost-cutting operation, in truth, based on my reading of it, it shifts the authority to declassify documents away from the office you had and sends that power to the FBI, the NSA, and the Central Intelligence Agencies, exactly the institutions which promulgated and then covered up the Russian collusion hoax. You already are moving aggressively to downsize your office as we speak, correct?
That's right. And in some of these areas, there's certainly agreement between the work that we are doing to streamline operations, to find and create efficiencies, save taxpayer dollars, to downsize the organization so that it can actually it can move in an agile and an efficient manner to fulfill the mission that ODNI was created for in the wake of 9/11. And you're exactly right, Roger. ODNI singularly is the oversight organization that looks over these 18 different intelligence community elements. It is the integrating body that pulls together the different intelligence products from these different agencies. We check to make sure that these intelligence assessments are not politicized, that they are not biased, that they are not trying to shift a policymaker's view in a biased way through the assessments. What we need are unbiased, objective, relevant, and timely intelligence assessments to best inform the president as he makes his decisions, as well as other policymakers here in our nation's capital. This is what ODNI was created to do. This is what we're focused on that oversight and integration function. I'm working very quickly towards making it executing the plan that we have built very deliberately. And I think taking away that oversight authority from ODNI would essentially put us back into a position where, for example, you would expect the FBI or the CIA or the NSA to report its own wrongdoing or to report its own incidents of weaponization of intelligence that may be occurring under their rooftop. We can look back in history and see that that is not the case, and that will not be the case, which is why you need an independent, objective body, in this case, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, to fulfill that necessary function for the president and for our country.
On a final point, I want to commend you and thank you for your assistance to Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, who I think has done a phenomenal job of fighting the federal bureaucracy to ensure that President Trump's orders that all federal records regarding the assassinations of President Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King are fulfilled. It's very clear to me that certain elements of the deep state have continued to try to obfuscate and hide a number of key documents, transcripts, videos, and audios, and I know you have worked very hard to help Luna and her committee fulfill that mission. So I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank Tulsi Gabbard for joining us today in the Stone Zone. God bless you, my friend. You're doing an amazing job for our country, and I could not be prouder of you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your bringing voice to so many of these concerns that exist across our country, and it's actually been a real pleasure working with Representative Paulina Luna on this important work, once again, finding the truth and sharing the truth with the American people.
All right, that's it for us today. I want to thank Tulsi Gabbard, our guest. Until tomorrow, God bless you and Godspeed.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
When you're having a baby, there's a lot on your mind. At Northwell's Staten Island University Hospital, you can rest easy with our reimagined labor and delivery experience. Our new Grapuso Women and Newborn Center provides private suites, overnight accommodations for a loved one, and a top-level NICU. All powered by the team that cares for the most moms and babies in New York. It's care made for Staten Island and made for you. Visit northwell.edu/newbaby. Staten Island University Hospital. Raise health.